guys, welcome to my channel if you're new here. And for this week's video, I am doing my first tier list. I will be ranking the MCU movies from my most favorite to my least favorite. I finally got around to seeing Eternals last night, so I thought this would be a good time to do this. And I have a special guest, Baby Groot is gonna join me, so let's get into it. Okay, so my criteria for ranking is not based on what critics have to say or what other people have to say about the MCU. It's solely based on my own opinion. As an actor, I am very swayed by the story, the performance of the actors. However, I do think that these movies were cast very well, so I think that the acting is pretty top-notch in all of them. Although the action in these movies is obviously incredible, that's not really a big factor when I evaluate a movie. Really, I'm just thinking about how it made me feel and how much I enjoyed it. Obviously, there may be some spoilers, so if you haven't seen all of these movies, just be aware of that. Alright, so we are going to do this in order of release date, so that means we are starting with Iron Man, the one that started it all. Oh man, this is gonna be so hard. Okay, Iron Man. I may move things around, obviously, but for now, Iron Man really kicked off this whole gigantic universe. They were really kind of taking a gamble at the time with casting Robert Downey Jr. Obviously, he was incredible in the role, brought so much to the character, such an interesting spin on Tony Stark. I feel like this character in this movie sort of brought a different kind of humanity to our lead superheroes that we weren't quite seeing before with some of these other big franchises with superheroes. And this film really kind of set the foundation for what the whole MCU would end up being. And that was a lot of weight to have on their shoulders, but they did it well. You know, I'm sure they weren't expecting things in the future to end up going the way that they did, but what a great start, right?
I am Iron Man.
So I'm gonna leave that there for now. The second film was The Incredible Hulk. Okay, so this one is kind of an odd one because obviously it doesn't really quite feel like it fits with the rest of the films because Edward Norton didn't end up continuing as the Hulk. Obviously we got Mark Ruffalo later, so it kind of feels like it's like out of the timeline in a way, even though it's not really technically. I mean, it did come out at the same time. I didn't actually watch this one until years later when we were doing like a Marvel marathon before we saw Infinity War and Endgame, I believe, is when we did that. So obviously I had seen so many of the great MCU films before seeing this one, and that obviously kind of swayed my opinion on it at the time. So this one is definitely not one of my favorites. I have a hard time putting things into the meh category because I didn't think any of these movies were bad. It may move, but I might leave that there for now. It just didn't quite do much for me. It's just harder to keep me invested when I've had less time to kind of build a relationship with these characters, so obviously the ones that have been around from the start, I'm gonna feel the most for. So Iron Man 2 was fine. I think I like it a little bit better than the Hulk. As I said, I might move these around. And it is true that one of the things that I do kind of think about when I evaluate these movies is the villains. And it's hard because with the villains, you know, we're getting a lot less time with them than we are our lead, you know, protagonists. It is sort of hard to be a compelling, interesting villain that is memorable and really contributes to the story and the future of the, you know, MCU timeline. And I did think Mickey Rourke was kind of interesting. Overall, the movie, like, not incredibly memorable in the scheme of like 26 films. All right, so the next one is Thor. And I really love the Thor characters and the Thor films. I know that a lot of people tend to be kind of hard on the Thor movies because, you know, he's maybe less likable of a character than some others, but I really love the relationship and dynamic between Thor and Loki. So I definitely really loved this movie. I'm gonna put it in the great section for now. I already know I'm gonna move these around, so this is stressing me out, but stick around, okay? Okay, so then next on the list is Captain America First Avenger. The Captain America movies, what's interesting is that, like, I think when these movies were first coming out, I enjoyed the Captain America movies, but they didn't seem quite as like exciting to me maybe as some of these other movies. However, now at this point, after having rewatched these movies multiple times, I'm finding that the Captain America storyline is more powerful to me than it was before. I think that this one was great. I think seeing Steve Rogers go from, you know, a scrappy, ambitious, but, you know, physically unable to contribute as much as he wanted to, character to becoming Captain America, but obviously keeping his humble, wonderful persona that he has, I think that that is obviously the most compelling part about Captain America. Okay, so next on our list is the Avengers. So obviously this one was a big deal because we were getting to see them all together for the first time. We were like, they're all in one movie. Little did we know what the future of the MCU would be. And this one is kind of the first one that's like almost infinite action, a lot of spectacle. I did think that this was a pretty cool movie. I'm already seeing that I'm gonna have a really hard time with this because almost all of them are just gonna be in the great and good sections, which doesn't make for a very interesting video, but I'll move them around a little bit more later. We really got to see Loki be quite evil in this one, and because we have already been introduced to him as a character, we cared more about him as a villain. I think that that worked well. Seeing all of these characters come together, these characters from different worlds coming together, very cool. Okay, so the next one on the list is Iron Man 3. So Iron Man 3, I may have a very unpopular opinion with this one. So whenever I think of Iron Man 3, I just think of the characters that are fiery, they like burn up and can explode and whatever. I feel like something about that just didn't quite work for me. And I don't know why in my brain I have this opinion because so much of the Marvel universe is obviously fantasy. It's not based in any kind of realism. I feel like that was one of the first times we were introduced to something that I just thought was silly and just like unnecessary and didn't do much for me, and yet it was such a big part of the story. Pepper becomes what she kind of like gets those powers as well. I thought that this one was just kind of wacky and it wasn't one of my favorites. So I'm actually gonna put this one in the meh category, which I know people are probably like, oh, but that's just how I feel. I think it might be one of my least favorite, if not the least favorite. I think the combination of like the Mandarin, isn't he in this one, and pretty much all our kind of antagonist characters, there was a lot going on and like almost none of it worked for me. That's kind of how I feel about it. All right, so moving on to Thor: The Dark World. So this is one that probably everyone would put in the meh category, but I really love the Thor characters. It is true that the villain, you know, the dark elves and stuff, not super memorable in the scheme of things, but as I said, I really love the Thor and Loki dynamic, which was even more kind of pronounced in this one. They had more to kind of play with. But I still liked this one. Obviously, I don't think it's as good as the original Thor. I'm gonna put it in the good category. I might move it later, but I still liked it. So that's my opinion and I'm sticking with it. Okay, so next one is Captain America: Winter Soldier. So fun fact is that I actually worked on this one. I do background and stand-in work, and I worked on the scene where they're in the Apple store and they're looking up stuff on a computer. So I got to be on set with Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson, and that was nice. So I realized earlier that I am in fact blind and I put the wrong one up there. I put Winter Soldier up there, but this is actually Captain America. So let me move Winter Soldier. I liked Winter Soldier. I really liked being introduced to Bucky as the Winter Soldier and seeing what's happened to him. Very compelling. As I said, we've already been introduced to this antagonist before, so we feel a little bit more for him, and I loved that. I loved the conflict between them, and I thought that this was a good one. Would have been cool if I was there on a little bit more of an exciting day, but I'm happy that I was able to even work on it at all. Okay, so then we have Guardians of the Galaxy, where we meet Groot and the Guardians. So Guardians of the Galaxy was really cool because I feel like it really changed what the MCU could do. It really kind of had a very different feel to it. Very funny, obviously the most funny one that we had seen yet. Kind of new and fresh and just so funny. I love how wacky these characters are. Almost none of them are likable, but yet they are at the same time. Just so different. I really loved this movie when it came out and I still love it, so I'm gonna put it in the great category. Okay, so then next on the list is Avengers: Age of Ultron. So this was a tough one because Avengers was so successful and then they were like, let's do another one.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
And try to kind of capture some of that magic of having them all together the first time. And there is a lot that goes on in this one, but for some reason it just doesn't really stick in my brain as one of the most memorable ones. So yeah, I found, do I want to put it here? This is tough. I don't feel like it's on the same level as the Hulk. I might put it here and then kind of rearrange things later. Something about Ultron. I think that James Spader did a very good job with the voice. He added a lot to that character, made him super creepy. But I don't know, in just the whole grand scheme of things with 26 films, just really not one of my favorites. However, I love that they introduced Vision. He's one of my favorite characters, so that is tough because I loved his origin, and yet the rest of the film not quite as compelling to me as most of the others. Okay, so next is Ant-Man, which is another super funny one where we were kind of like, okay, let's throw in a different flavor. We're gonna have Paul Rudd play this character, which he does so magnificently. Hilarious character. And overall, you know, it's a good movie, but this one, despite it being funny, I might put it in the good category. It's not one of the most memorable. And then next we have Captain America Civil War. So this one is interesting because, if I'm correct, this is the first one that was directed by the Russo brothers. And I think that they sort of helped add this other layer to it where things were kind of taken up a notch in terms of like intensity, and just the acting kind of just brought it up a level. The importance of everything going on in the MCU, everything had more of an urgency. It was good. And although there was a lot of action, when I think of this movie, I do think about the relationships between the characters. And as I said, this is kind of setting us up for the future, but as an actor, like, I love that kind of stuff. Because when it comes to things like spectacle, you know, you want to go to a big movie and have popcorn and whatever, you know, that's all fun. But like, I kind of like having the meat and potatoes of a film, you know, seeing what makes these characters who they are. And that just makes us love them more and care about them more. So this one was great. I'm going to put it up here. It's funny because I kind of often am like, what happens in that movie? But then when I watch it again, I'm like, oh, even though it's a little bit like slow moving in a lot of ways, I feel like it's pretty long. It is quite good. Okay, so next on our list is Doctor Strange. At the time it came out, our expectations of these movies are so much higher. So having another origin story, bringing in another character, you know, big shoes to fill, right? I loved Benedict Cumberbatch's portrayal of this character. I loved the journey he goes on. This one felt pretty different and unique. However, it's not one of my favorites, so I may put it in this category. I thought the story was cool. It's just that there's so many movies that one doesn't stick in my brain as like, that one was really good, you know? So now we are at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Okay, so this one has probably one of my most favorite beginnings of a movie ever, let alone the MCU, primarily because of Baby Groot, but so wacky, so funny, really brings you right into like, this is the world of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it is so different than all the rest of the MCU, but it's just so funny. I think because Ego, we find out, is a planet, and he's also Star-Lord's dad, and there's a lot going on. They have to fight him as he's like a planet. Didn't quite work for me as much as some other things. When I think of this movie, I think of Gamora and Nebula's battle, where they're like, is it this one where they're like, she's in a plane, she's like gonna fly into Gamora, and then like Gamora has like the giant gun, and it's just like so intense, and they're just badass women. I loved that. However, I still think that this one I might put in the good category. As I said, I need to kind of go through these bottom, really all the tiers, and kind of sort this a little bit more later. Okay, so the next on the list is Spider-Man Homecoming. So this is the first time we see Spider-Man have his own movie in this world, even though we've already been introduced to him. The twist was actually pretty unexpected, and I appreciated it. I thought that that twist was interesting, and as a multiracial person, seeing a multiracial family portrayed, even though the father, you know, Michael Keaton's character ends up being a bad guy, very cool. I appreciated that as an audience member. Obviously loved Tom Holland's portrayal of Peter Parker, very cool. This is tough. Where should I put this one? I gotta go through this and sort this out because I think it's better than Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I might just leave it there for now. Okay, so now we have Thor Ragnarok. I know this is a lot of people's favorite Thor. Dang, Cate Blanchett really came in swinging with this one. Very compelling female villain. Is this the first time we have a female villain and then we don't really have very many else after that either? That's a shame because she was very, very compelling and made the most of her screen time for sure. A lot of things happen in this and we are getting to see a different side of Thor. And I think Chris Hemsworth had a lot to do with wanting to give more to his character, which I thought was cool. It is good. This, should I do this now? Oh, I'm nervous. Am I gonna pull these down? I can't. I gotta do this a little later. I gotta sort through it later. Okay, this is probably like the worst tier list anyone has ever seen. All right, so next is Black Panther. Okay, Black Panther was an incredible origin story. This really, like right from the start, the acting, you're just like, okay, we got a little taste of this kind of stuff with Civil War, but like right off the bat, they start off this movie with like, we're gonna make this world our own and introduce you to Wakanda. It's all gonna be very new and fresh. However, we're also gonna like show you that we can make these superhero movies, like top-notch acting, just taking it to like an entirely different level. So I think this is definitely the first one I'm gonna put in the incredible category. I also love, I was able to vote for it for the SAG Awards, and it won the top award, you know, best film or best cast at the SAG Awards, and it felt good because I was like, that cast was awesome. Really taking things up a notch with like how good and how fine the acting can be. The dialects that a lot of those actors had to do, almost none of them have that actual dialect. I know some people might be doing accents in other movies, but like they train with a vocal coach. It's a lot of work and they just completely embody those characters, and I just fully believe they are Wakandans, you know? Such a good movie. Oh, it's also so heartbreaking, man. Okay, so now we're at, here we go. We're finally at Avengers Infinity War. And this is, you know, 1 of 2. Incredible, incredible movie. We're getting to finally see all of these worlds come together. It's like we're taking the first 2 Avengers, you know, with each Avengers movie topping it higher and higher and higher. And this one was incredible. I remember in the theater, oh my gosh, at the very end, just being like, my jaw was dropped. I think everyone was like weeping, and we were like, what happened? This doesn't happen in movies. Surely something is gonna remedy this, right? And then we have to wait a year for Endgame, and we're just like so distressed, so distressed for a year. Like, I need to know what happens. I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they pulled that off. We're like, we're just gonna kill half of all these characters that everyone really cares about, and we saw them die. I had to process it. It was a lot. So cool. So not what I was expecting. Just incredible. Okay, so then Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay, so this one that's kind of a hard one to follow, Infinity War. This one, I think, definitely not one of my favorites. This is hard. I think I might have to put it. Oh, I don't feel like anything really belongs in the meh category, but this one was particularly forgettable. I did like Evangeline Lilly, her character becoming the Wasp. However, the villains, you know, the girl who's, what is she? She's kind of like, I forgot what her character's even called. It was such a short amount of time that we had with her. It wasn't quite enough. It didn't do much for me. So I think that's why that needs to be at the bottom there. Okay, so next on our list is Captain Marvel. Okay, so this one was tough because we had such high expectations. We were very excited and ready to have our first female-led superhero movie in the MCU. I think Brie Larson did a good job, but something about, I don't know, the world that they established and the characters, and like Jude Law, great actor. I don't know if like that relationship between him and Captain Marvel was really enough to carry that movie for me. I thought it was just kind of all right. That makes me sad because I wanted it to be one of the best ones. But I think I might need to leave it there. It's kind of forgettable, unfortunately. But there were a lot of elements I liked to it. I did like the cat too.
Who's a good kitty, huh? Huh, Goose?
Okay, so then next on the list is Avengers Endgame. Okay, so this one is definitely my favorite. Incredible, incredible movie. It's pretty much like all I wanted and hoped for and expected all at the same time. However, just absolutely heartbreaking. Having to lose characters we really loved. One of the things that's hardest about this is losing Black Widow, but we get Gamora back, but she's not the same Gamora, and like, it was absolutely heartbreaking to lose our female Avenger, our first original female Avenger. I have to say that the acting in this film was absolutely incredible. They kept things small and contained. Like, some of my most favorite scenes are like, obviously the scenes where really big grand things are happening, you know, on your left, and you're just like, oh, you're brain is exploding at like how cool that is, and the magnitude of like the end, obviously so cool. But some of my favorite stuff is actually at the beginning, where these actors are getting an opportunity to show how much has happened in 5 years without us seeing what's happened in 5 years. The simple scene where like Black Widow is like eating a peanut butter sandwich and she's like crying, and like Steve Rogers comes in and talks to her, and they're so broken, and you're just like, am I watching a Marvel movie? What's happening? And they were so good. Paul Rudd as Ant-Man at the beginning, where he like sees his daughter Cassie and she's grown up, and like his acting at the beginning of the movie, so good. We didn't get to see this side of Ant-Man earlier. They gave them all of this to work with, and it just makes us so invested in the characters and care about them so much. And I think that that is why Infinity War and especially Endgame are incredible movies, probably some of my favorites ever. I have to give it to, you know, the writers, the directors, and the actors for just being so good. Everything else that happens, obviously, like, is very important to the story, but I think just seeing these characters we know and love go through all of this, it's just incredible. Okay, so then next on the list is Spider-Man Far From Home. Okay, so this is the first one that I have not seen more than once, I want to say. All the rest on the list I've only seen once. That does play into how I feel about a movie, because it can grow on me the more I've seen a movie. This one was a little tricky. I feel that the villain, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, it didn't quite do much for me. I know that they are obviously basing all of this off of the comics, and I don't know if it was quite enough to carry this for me. I do love Zendaya's character. I liked that we got to see a little bit more of her. I love Ned. I love those characters together. I love how funny they can be. I just kind of feel like it was all right. I might put it right there. And then next we have Black Widow. We finally, after all these years, get our first film with Black Widow as the lead. Waited such a long time for this, and I don't know, it made me kind of sad, because just in the sense that like my expectations were so high, and I feel like we had Black Widow and Hawkeye reference Budapest so many times. I really wanted to see what happened in Budapest. I wanted like that flashback, and I think they just talked about it or something. And I suppose the thing is, I wanted it to be a lot more character based, more so than what they did. I think that they did do a fair job at trying to kind of give more depth to her character, but I wanted even more, because this is like the last time we're getting to have her, and it kind of fell short for me, but it was still good. I might put it here. Okay, so that finally brings us to the two newest movies, and luckily I was able to see both of these in the theater. So Shang-Chi. This was so awesome to finally see a fully Asian cast represented in the MCU on the big screen. Really, really cool. Immediately invested in these characters, even though it is really challenging, as I said, to kind of introduce a whole new set of characters that were not previously mentioned or part of this universe that's already been established. I am very hard on these last few movies after Endgame, because my expectations were so high. The fantasy of it was like nothing we've ever seen before. There was a lot of beautiful moments. Some of those they're not even really fight sequences. They are more like dance sequences. All of that was choreographed beautifully. I don't think he had any martial arts training before this movie, so that just makes me go like, what? They did an amazing job. This one is tough because I kind of wish, well, as I said, I'm probably gonna move things around, but if there was like a tier between great and good, maybe that's where I'd put this one. I think I need to see it again to see if I like it more. There were some silly things. What's the name of the little sidekick? Not even an animal. He didn't have a head. It was very strange. I couldn't decide whether I liked that or not. A lot of silliness involving the Mandarin, but the rest of the world was pretty interesting. This is a good example of us being invested and caring about the antagonist because it's his father without having met him before. But I thought that was a really cool movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing those characters come back. Okay, so now we are finally at Eternals, the last movie that I have seen on this list. No Way Home is coming out eventually, but we are not quite ready for that yet. So Eternals, what do I think of Eternals? This one was a bit odd. As I said, really big shoes to fill after Endgame, and this one was really kind of going a different direction and introducing so many characters at the same time. When you have so many characters, you're getting less time with each character to care about them. I might have to see it again. Something about like them having sex on the sand or whatever, like them getting married and having a relationship and like establishing that, like that was enough. I don't think that having that scene added anything. It just made us feel super awkward. There was also like a long scene where I think right before that, they're kissing passionately. It's just like a hair too long, you know, on those shots. It just felt a little out of place in the MCU, I feel. And the overall payoff of like caring about their relationship and their dynamic, I don't know it was quite there, and I don't think it has to do with the actors. I think that they did a good job. I don't know. I'm gonna put it in the all right category as well. Now I need to kind of make my final decision on this stuff. Here we go. I think the first thing I'm gonna do is actually bring the Hulk down to the meh category, which feels weird because it's like when I watch these bottom 3 films here, they're not bad. It's just that like, I thought that they were just the least interesting out of all of these. Now, this section here, I feel like this is pretty accurate as well. I think I'm okay with leaving those there. This middle section, let's see how I feel about this. Like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I feel like if there was a category in between good and all right, maybe Guardians of the Galaxy should be there. Age of Ultron, I don't know why this one kind of sticks in my brain as like, just okay. Maybe I'll put this up here. I feel like this is feeling right. Obviously, I could go down the list and kind of say like which ones I liked better than the others, but I only have these 5 categories, and this is feeling right. I think I can be okay with this. So yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with this final list here. I don't think I'm gonna make any other adjustments. It is interesting though that quite a few of these movies that I have only seen once are at the bottom. Maybe if I saw them again, our newest movies, I might feel a little bit differently towards them and want to move them up higher on the list, but I think this is good for now. I think Baby Groot approves of my list, even if you don't. And that's gonna do it for this week's video. I hope you'll consider giving this video a like and subscribing to my channel if you enjoyed this, and hopefully I can do more videos like this in the future. Thanks again for watching. I hope you'll be back for future videos, and see you guys later. Bye.